What? Ew. Oh. Okay, whatever. Sure, Lucky. You can't do that. So Farrell pulls us right back into the chaos of Pet City. Only now, the monsters aren't coming from the outside. With Mother Helena gone and Lucky stepping into power, everything the survivors fought for is suddenly twisting into something darker and something uncomfortably familiar. Old fears resurface, new tensions explode, and the fragile hope our characters once had starts slipping through their paws. This comic has it all, too. We're diving deep into the power shifts, the manipulation, the trauma, and the heartbreaking choices that define this comic. Because if Farrell has taught us anything, it's that surviving the chaos doesn't mean escaping its consequences. So just how does living in Lucky Town play out? Will Lucky actually keep the brutalism of Mother Helena's Pet City alive? And what shocking revelations will we learn this issue about a certain cat everyone loves to hate? Stay tuned to find out. So Feral number 18 opens with an ominous shift in perspective, pulling us away from Pet City and showing us two CDC agents parked on a road overlooking the building. Their conversation quietly confirms that the government has been monitoring this area for some time. One of them gestures towards the distant structure and says, "See? Right there. That sign didn't used to be lit up," indicating that something inside Pet City has changed. Activity where there shouldn't be any. The second agent replies, "Should cross-check the address with CDC. Make sure someone got sent in there to run cleanup." This exchange makes it clear that from the CDC's point of view, Pet City is a contaminated zone that must be cleaned, and that cleanup is far from gentle. The agent continues, "Or they'll say they've never heard of this place, and we'll get sent in to run cleanup." Their dread is palpable. One complains, "Couldn't we just skip it? I don't like cleanup. I don't like being in enclosed spaces with those things. I'm supposed to be doing lab work." His partner dryly summarizes their situation. "Yeah, well, things don't always work out like we hoped they would." So think about what Tony Fleecs is telling us here. Within the first page, he is foreshadowing a hard truth to be explored in this comic. Elsie and Gigi spent multiple issues longing for freedom from Mother Helena's cruelty. For them, overthrowing her wasn't just a political shift. It was a chance to reclaim a sense of safety, community, and normalcy. They put their hope in Lucky. They wanted a future where Pet City could finally heal, but Lucky's rise to power subverts everything they hoped for. Instead of liberation, they end up watching the same patterns of immorality and control reemerge under someone they thought they could trust. And for us, the parallel is just as sharp. We expected that Mother Helena's downfall would mark a turning point, a chance for the story to move towards justice or recovery or at least something positive. Instead, Lucky's transformation forces us to confront those same themes of violence and control that we saw with Mother Helena. It challenges the assumption that just because we've taken out the villain, things will get better. This series has always been about subverting expectations and playing with our emotions, and we're about to ride that cathartic roller coaster yet again. And no matter how Lucky runs things inside Pet City, the CDC is eventually going to come in and exterminate everything. They have already been cleaning infected areas around the town, but the full scale of the virus's impact still remains uncertain. What is certain, though, is that Pet City is on borrowed time. When the focus returns to inside Pet City, the issue delivers an unexpected and uncomfortable image. Lucky and Gigi sleeping together alongside the kittens, curled up as though this new arrangement is safe, normal, and how things are supposed to be. The idea that Gigi may be going along with Lucky's takeover and has promised to keep things the same, well, those are just some major red flags for me. And then morning comes and Lucky gets up abruptly saying, I gotta go. But Gigi wants him to stay. No, stay. A plea Lucky immediately dismisses, and he answers her with, Gigi, somebody's got to make sure this place doesn't fall apart. Check in on the cleanup effort. Check the food levels. You stay here and get your beauty rest, princess. He's laying it on thick here. Lucky clearly sees Gigi as a prize or some sort of possession here, something to comfort him and project status, rather than as an equal partner. And this is a fact that we will see multiple times in this issue. And Gigi pushes back quietly but firmly. That's not what I do. Lucky gives her a patronizing reassurance here too. You're with me. You can do whatever you want. In other words, as long as Lucky stays in power, Gigi can treat others however she wants, because he'll enforce it through fear and strength. But Gigi has one real concern. Her kittens. Promise me you'll talk to them about the babies. Lucky, I can't stand it. I can't. She cannot stomach Mother Helena's practice of slaughtering kittens for food, and she wants Lucky to end it. Lucky gives an evasive reassurance touched with a chilling caveat. Babe, relax. Nothing is going to happen to your kittens. I'm in charge now. These cats will do whatever I tell them. Lucky looking at Gigi as a prize tells me all I need to know about how he views the cats around him. Not as individuals, not as friends, and not as fellow survivors, but assets that validate his rule. Subjects for him to direct. This language and attitude echo Mother Helena, where others existed to serve her vision of how she thought Pet City should work. By turning Gigi into something he's won, Lucky reduces her agency and reinforces his new role as a self-appointed ruler who believes he's entitled to others' loyalty. Or, well, moosh happens. And his statement about the kittens sounds protective on the surface, but the subtext is chilling. It mirrors the kind of reassurance an abuser gives to manipulate their victims. A promise that is more about control than compassion. He's establishing himself as the arbiter of safety here, implying he alone decides what happens to them. Rather than reassuring Gigi, it subtly reinforces that she and her kittens are now under his authority. Lucky isn't promising to stop the practice, only to spare her litter. This is not compassion, it's leverage. And we all know this is not going to end well. Then Lucky begins his rounds and heads first to the food processing room, where the kitten slaughter took place under Mother Helena. Axel confronts him immediately. We gotta talk about the babies. He explains that supplies are running low. We're running low on dry cat food. There's dog food we could eat in a pinch, but it upsets most of the cats' stomachs. Makes them sick. Lucky is dismissive after hearing this. Boy, you sheltered pussies wouldn't last a day out in the wild.
He ain't lying.
And this goes to show how little empathy or responsibility he feels, despite supposedly being the new leader here. But Axel presses on, revealing the brutal reality. Look, it is what it is. You want these cats to survive? It ain't gonna be on dog food. He paws a can of wet cat food on the floor and we see their problem firsthand. They can't open the cans of wet cat food. So unless you can figure out how to open one of these, that's why Mother Helena had us supplementing the food. If we don't get back on that soon, we're going to run out of meat. As horrifying as it is, this explanation clarifies that the cats did try other options first, but were trapped by desperation and Mother Helena's cruelty. Axel continues describing the state of the corpses around them as well. These bad kind, and the fallen, they're already starting to rot. Another few days and they'll be inedible too. Enough time has passed since the last issue for decomposition to become a real threat. He then adds something even more disturbing. 2 of Helena's litter survived the attack. They will be old enough soon. We need them to at least be 8 weeks for there to be enough meat. This confirms the deeply structured and methodical nature of Mother Helena's practices, choosing the right age for slaughter, experimenting, and optimizing. And Axel gives us even more details. Too much older, and they put up a fight. Their meat gets harder to rip. Before Lucky cuts him off with, okay, okay, we don't need to know all the details. It's telling that Lucky wants the brutality maintained, but cannot bear to hear the specifics. That's some selective ignorance, I'd say. And I think he just wants to preserve the illusion that he is above these acts. But this exposes how fully he has embraced the brutality of Mother Helena's pet city. It shows he wants to benefit from the violence, while keeping himself emotionally insulated from it. Lucky wants the outcomes of cruelty without confronting the cruelty itself. This hypocrisy says a lot about where this character has landed. By distancing himself from the mechanics of the violence, Lucky can maintain the illusion that he's not as bad as Mother Helena. The other cat's perception of him is what matters to Lucky. He tells himself he's making practical decisions, necessary for survival, while avoiding anything that might force him to reckon with the horror that he's enabling. It's selective morality, a kind of willful blindness that allows him to justify the same atrocities our group of cats fought against. And Lucky isn't just stepping into Mother Helena's role here. He's rewriting it in a way that allows him to feel somewhat righteous while still committing the same sins. In my opinion, that's a bit more unsettling than Mother Helena herself. But it gets worse. Axel then reveals an even larger logistical crisis. After they're gone, we lost a lot of mothers in the attack, and not enough of the survivors are expecting now. The supply of kittens cannot keep pace with the demand. Now that's a horrifying way to look at things. However, Lucky brushes it aside. Is that all? I'd much rather be working on that than listening to your kitten recipes. His smug tomcat bravado implies he's eager to work on increasing the supply. Of course, that's what he's worried about. Axel clarifies the scale of the problem though. After these last two, we'll have no meat left. We need more of these mothers producing, and not just the pet city cats. Everyone needs to be on board. Your cats need to be on board. Lucky replies with arrogance. My cats are on board. They'll produce. They'll do whatever I tell them. Lucky's arrogance becomes especially chilling when you consider how directly his words impact Elsie, Gigi, and even Chloe. These cats fought desperately for freedom, safety, and control over their own lives. Yet Lucky now speaks as if their bodies and their future litters are assets he has the right to manage and distribute in whatever way he sees fit. By insisting he can force his cats to produce kittens for slaughter, he reduces them yet again to an innate function, creating resources for the others to survive on. Not to mention the lives of the kittens stolen and simply turned into a commodity. And his earlier promise that nothing will happen to Gigi's kittens now rings hollow, reading more like a claim of ownership than protection. All of this reveals that for Elsie, Gigi, and Chloe, the nightmare they tried to escape didn't die with Mother Helena. It simply changed shape. Under Lucky, the same cycle of exploitation is beginning yet again. Lucky then asks about Elsie. Speaking of, have you seen Elsie? But Axel responds bluntly, which one's that? I don't know their names. Is she a rotting dead cat? Because that's all I've got back here. The next panel widens to show the horrifying pile of cat corpses, the infected and the fallen from Elsie opening the pet city doors, and among them lies William. You saw that, didn't you? Look at that. Look at that. He's coming back. Until his body twitches and he coughs, one glowing red eye opening. This is going to come back to haunt Lucky later, guaranteed. We then move deeper into Pet City and Lucky encounters Lord, a cat we didn't see much of last issue. Lucky greets him with forced friendliness. There he is. You get enough to eat yet? And Lord launches into an eager, rambling explanation. Lucky, Lucky, hey. Oh my goodness, I was so hungry. The cats, the Pet City cats, they wouldn't let me eat anything. You remember. They kept making up new rules and passing down punishments. But then the bad kind, boy oh boy, they didn't know what hit them when the bad kind showed up. While it's clear that Lord certainly looks up to Lucky, I don't think Lucky is interested in continuing this friendship. Just take a look at what happens next. Lucky reminds him gently, Lord, I remember I was right there next to you. But Lord is still buzzing and he says, I was just so hungry. Lucky immediately seizes the emotional opening. You eat whatever you want from now on, buddy. No rules for you anymore. You're my little guy. It's a classic example of being facetious, isolating, flattering, and manipulating all at the same time. Lord climbs down to show off the treats he's found as well. Have you tried this kind? We never had these at home. They're crunchy on the outside, but then on the inside it's all gushy with chicken flavor. Lucky listens, but only to steer the conversation toward his own agenda. Sounds healthy. Listen, if you're my guy in here, that means you're going to need to help out some too. Take on some responsibilities. But Lord asks, like what? And Lucky lays out the first task. For a start, I could use some help cleaning up around here. You can be my special helper. Lord wavers though. Oh, I couldn't. I can't do that by myself though. Lucky reassures him though. Of course not. You'll get these sad fatzos to help out. Now, Lucky calling Lord his buddy and trying to recruit him to help out reveals a lot about how Lucky views relationships and loyalty in Pet City. On the surface, it sounds friendly, almost casual, but yet again underneath, it exposes Lucky's manipulative mindset. He treats Lord's trust and companionship as tools he can leverage to legitimize his new rule. By framing it as a favor between friends, Lucky avoids acknowledging that what he's asking is morally corrupt. He wants Lord's participation, not because Lord agrees with him, but because Lucky believes their history entitles him to that support. He genuinely assumes that because he sees himself as the rightful leader of Pet City, those around him will naturally fall in line, especially those he considers friends. But the request shows something else. He doesn't understand or care about Lord really. Lord is only a means to an end for Lucky. But Lord is kind of concerned about this. The Pet City cats. But they're not going to listen to me. And Lucky counters, they better. You're with me. My second in command. They'll do whatever you tell them. Lord looks down uneasy. Second in command? And Lucky reassures Lord. And then pivots right back to manipulation. Asking again about Elsie. Lord says, no, not since the bad kind. Lucky pretends confusion though. That's weird. I thought you two were family. She hasn't checked in with you? Lord tries to explain. She just gets in her head sometimes. Then Lucky drops the bomb. Huh, maybe Gigi was right. And Lord bites. What did she say? Lucky fakes reluctance. Oh, I shouldn't. I've probably said too much. But Lord is begging now. He really wants to know. No, what did she say? I won't say anything. And then Lucky delivers his scripted line. She said Elsie thinks you're a burden. He walks away, leaving Lord stunned and devastated. Another wedge driven, another bond is fractured. Lucky telling Lord that Elsie thinks he's a burden is one of the clearest examples of his tendencies to manipulate others. And it reveals that Lucky is really systematically turning the group against one another to maintain power. This is classic emotional manipulation. Lucky wants Lord's loyalty, so he attacks Lord's sense of belonging. By planting the idea that Elsie sees him as a burden in Lord's head, Lucky tries to destabilize Lord's most important relationships. If Lord feels unwanted or undervalued again by the cats who actually care about him, he becomes easier for Lucky to isolate and control. Keep in mind that this is something Lord has struggled with throughout this entire series. Lucky knows what insecurities Lord has. I also think that the accusation exposes Lucky's insecurity just a little bit. He knows his new leadership is fragile, so he resorts to psychological tactics rather than genuine persuasion. Instead of offering Lord a reason to support him, he sows doubt, hoping Lord will cling to the only person seeming to offer him validation, Lucky himself. And tyrants rely on division. Mother Helena used fear and obedience. Lucky uses guilt and manipulation. Couple this with the fact that Lucky can essentially kill any of the cats he wants at any time using moosh, and you can see this is the perfect recipe for a tyrant to thrive. And the worst part is how especially cruel this is, because it targets Lord's deepest vulnerability. Lord is always worried about being a burden to others, not as smart as the other cats as well, emotionally cautious, and unsure of himself. Lucky weaponizes this insecurity, shaping it into a lie that benefits him yet again. So next, the issue cuts to Chloe and Ghost attempting to teach Moosh to fetch. Chloe shouts, "No, not speak. Fetch. Come on, fetch, Moosh. Fetch." And of course, here comes Lucky making the rounds. He approaches them and effortlessly commands, "Moosh, go get it." And Moosh obeys him instantly. Chloe is perplexed and asks, "How do you do that? Talk to him." And Lucky replies, "You gotta say it like you mean it. He won't respond to timid commands." Then Lucky steps closer, and Chloe becomes visibly uncomfortable. She asks, Are you looking for Elsie?" And he shrugs it off. "Not necessarily. I don't always need to know where Elsie is. We're not that close." Pfft. 2 issues ago, that wasn't the case. Lucky then turns his attention to Ghost. "The little quiet one, is that your guy? He was pretty good out there against those creepers the other night." And Chloe blushes. "Who, Ghost?" "It's not like that. We're friends." And Lucky replies, "Oh yeah?" He sends Moosh off to play along with Ghost and lures Chloe into a pet carrier, where he uses her, just as he used Gigi and Elsie. Well, I think there's a pattern here. Lucky definitely is a tomcat, but I think there's a deeper reason he's doing this. Lucky luring Chloe into the pet carrier isn't an act of affection at all. It's an act of strategy and manipulation yet again. By moving in on Chloe, he continues the same manipulative pattern he has already established with Elsie and with Gigi, using intimacy as a tool rather than a way to create genuine connection. Chloe's friendly and trusting nature makes her especially vulnerable to Lucky's charm, and he recognizes that. I mean, Chloe was completely brainwashed by the lady and almost fell for Mother Helena's charm as well. When he steps closer to her, answers her questions with confidence, and then leads her into the carrier, he's exploiting her openness to secure another foothold of influence within the group. This keeps the survivors fragmented and dependent on him, reinforcing his growing belief that he deserves absolute authority. Taking Chloe also feeds Lucky's ego by proving he can take whatever or whoever he wants at any time. This dynamic highlights a disturbing imbalance here. Chloe enters the encounter with curiosity and is naive, while Lucky enters it knowing exactly how he needs to lead her on. In doing so, he mirrors Mother Helena's methods, using emotional leverage and bodily control to maintain dominance. His pursuit of Chloe isn't a romantic development, but a clear escalation of his tyrannical behavior, and just another wedge that will inevitably be driven between these cats. The narrative then shifts to Gigi's kittens, who are poking Nico's limp body and trying to determine whether he's dead. Of course he's not, but they seem to be intrigued nonetheless. Ash asks, "Is he dead? It looks like he's breathing, but he's not moving. He looks like he's sick." And Eleanor replies, "I think that is just how he looks." And then Milo adds, "Gross, his skin is all stretchy." Their innocent confusion crescendos when Ash yells, "Mr. Nico, wake up!" But Nico remains still, part annoyed and part lifeless. These kittens are hilarious, and just look at Nico's face in this panel. Then Lucky suddenly shouts from off panel, "Hey, knock that shit off. You three know you're not allowed to be alone with Pet City cats." And then the kittens try to explain they're bored and they just want to help. Milo says, "And Mama said we should go try to help with the cleanup." But Lucky snaps back, "Yeah, what cleanup? These lazy weirdos haven't cleaned anything." And then Milo mimics him, taunting Nico. Yeah, weirdo. You weirdos better start cleaning, or my mom's boyfriend is gonna. But Lucky smacks him hard before he can finish the sentence, snarling, "Mind your manners." Milo is shocked and hurt. "Hey, no pushing, that hurt." The kittens flee, with Milo calling back, "I'm telling my mom." Lucky responds coldly, though, "You do that. She knows you kittens are liars, anyways." Even after promising Gigi that her kittens were safe, he immediately harms one, proving his protection means nothing. Lucky hitting Milo is another example of how far he's fallen into outright tyranny. Up until this moment, his manipulation has been purely psychological, twisting words, sowing distrust, leveraging affection. But striking Milo crosses a line. It's physical now. Milo is a child, one of the very kittens Lucky has repeatedly promised Gigi he would protect, insisting nothing is going to happen to your kittens. By lashing out at him, Lucky exposes the hollowness of that promise and confirms that his protection only extends as far as the kittens remain useful props in his performance of power and leverage to get Gigi to go along with whatever he says. And Milo actually did seem to look up to Lucky. He imitated Lucky's swagger when he parrots the insult, "Yeah, you weirdo," showing how Lucky's influence is already shaping the behavior of Gigi's kittens. When Lucky hits him, he is essentially rejecting his own reflection, punishing a kitten for mimicking the aggression Lucky models for them. Violence becomes his answer to any perceived disrespect. This moment also shatters the illusion for the audience. Up to this point, Lucky's cruelty could still be dismissed as manipulation or harsh leadership born from having to survive in the wild after the outbreak. But hitting a kitten, especially one that looks up to him, strips away the last excuses. It's the behavior of an abuser who demands complete obedience, not a leader trying to hold a fragile society together. Lucky calling the kittens liars also shows just how quickly Lucky is willing to weaponize intimidation, even against the most vulnerable members of his group. The more I read this comic, the more I hate Lucky. Lucky then turns his attention to Nico, and Nico attempts to explain the kitten's behavior, saying they do not yet understand their place. But Lucky is not having any of it. "Yeah? What's their place, asshole? Sliced up thin and served over a nice mix of dry kibble?" Well, damn. And Nico is cowering at this point. "I only meant..." And Lucky cuts him off again, demanding to know why the cleaning isn't done and whether the Pet City cats know who's in charge. Nico explains, "They know that you killed Mother Helena. Those who survived, they know to fear you. But they do not... Mother Helena was their everything. She was the opening and the closing. Without her, they are rudderless. We have no purpose." The disturbing religious devotion the Pet City cats had to Mother Helena comes into sharper focus here. Lucky puffs himself up with grandiosity, however, though. "That's where you're wrong, rule maker. You listen to me now. I'm your purpose. You want to serve Pet City? To play out your role, that's me. I'm the mother now, the father, the king of the forest." But Nico delivers the harshest truth Lucky has heard yet, and I want you guys to pay attention to what he has to say here. "You speak with the confidence of a much wiser cat." Lucky speaks with confidence, but he is not actually wise. "Mother knew it the moment you arrived. She could feel it. You are not smart. You are not courageous. You are not strong. Why be any of those things when you can manipulate others into being them for you?" And this pisses Lucky off. "Is that what she said? When did she tell you that, Nico? When my dog was tossing her fat corpse around like a chew toy?" He then tackles Nico, pinning him down to the ground. "What's this feel like, Nico? Does it feel like strength? Do you feel courageous?" Now this scene gets at the crux of this whole story arc, and is one of the most important thematic punches of the entire comic. It cuts directly through Lucky's self-crafted persona and exposes the hollow core beneath, all his swagger, all his charm, and all his posturing. Now Nico really just puts into words what we've been watching unfold for the past few issues. Lucky survives not because he's exceptional, but because he manipulates and weaponizes the other animals around him. He used Moosh's brute force, abused Elsie's loyalty, Gigi's trust, and Chloe's vulnerability. He preyed on Lord's need for belonging, and even the kitten's admiration, turning every relationship into leverage. Nico's words highlight that Lucky's power is entirely second hand. He creates the illusion of dominance by orchestrating everyone else into playing roles he wants them to play. This accusation shows us the difference between Lucky and Mother Helena as well. For all her brutality, Helena embodied a twisted kind of religious devotion. Her followers believed in her because she acted and helped them by having her litters and then giving them up to slaughter. Lucky, on the other hand, is all theater. He wants the benefits of authority without the burden. His refusal to listen to how the kittens are slaughtered, his reliance on Moosh as the true threat, and his need to pit everyone against each other to maintain control all point to a leader who's insecure and has a fragile ego. And this reframes Lucky entirely. His actions are not signs of strength or strategic brilliance, really. They are signs of someone who can only operate by dividing, exploiting, and deceiving others. Lucky is not a leader rising to fill a vacuum. He is more like a parasite, surviving off the emotional and physical labor of everyone around him. And then Gigi intervenes. Lucky, stop. Let him up. There will never be peace here if you keep solving every problem with violence. And Nico supports her. The mother speaks wisdom. Then finally, Gigi confronts Lucky about hitting Milo. Milo said that you hit him. And just like we all knew he would, Lucky lies instantly. He is lying. Gigi counters. The other kittens saw it. Do you think I don't know when my children are telling the truth? Then she delivers the line that makes Lucky crack. You hit me just the other day. Lucky tries to justify his abuse. You were acting hysterical. These cats need to know we're not playing around. I have to project. But Gigi cuts him off. If you try to control the Pet City cats with brutality, what stops them from attacking us in return? And Lucky yells the answer. My pit bull. It's raw honesty. Everything depends on Moosh. When Gigi challenges him on why violence isn't a sustainable way to rule others, Lucky has no real argument, no plan, and no wisdom to offer. Instead, he immediately defaults to the real source of his power, Moosh. That moment strips away all the ego, posturing, and manipulation Lucky has been hiding behind. He's not in control because he's respected, clever, or even capable. He's in control because he happens to have the biggest and most powerful weapon in the room. And again, this draws a contrast between Lucky and Mother Helena. Helena's rule was monstrous and horrific, but it was built on belief, ritual, and rules. Her cats followed her out of that twisted sense of devotion. Lucky tries to mimic that authority, but that's not Lucky. All he has is intimidation. Moosh is the only thing keeping the Pet City cats from attempting to tear him apart. Moosh is the leverage for everything, his justification for cruelty, his shield against consequences, and the passive way he says it, as if it's the simplest truth in the world, shows that he fully believes brute force is not only acceptable, but the natural way to maintain control. Then Gigi tries to reason with Lucky and show him the error in his thinking. Moosh can't be everywhere all the time. All that matters to me is keeping my kids safe. I'm not going to raise them in a war zone. Lucky softens his tone and then starts manipulating her again. That's not something you can control. I'm going to project strength. That's how we survive here. Nobody will lay a paw on your kids. Nobody will hurt them because you're with me. He then leans into the emotional cage that he's built for Gigi. These cats know who's under my protection and who isn't. Your kittens never have to worry, but the rest of them, they should be concerned. He walks away, leaving Gigi defeated. She finally realizes that her kitten's safety is the leash Lucky is tied around her neck, the only leverage he ever really needed for her. After Lucky walks away, Elsie emerges from behind a shelf and says, "He's lying." And Gigi replies tiredly, I can't do this right now, Elsie. Elsie follows her, insisting, "You can't trust him. I've been watching him all day. He's lied to everyone in here." But Lucky has already poisoned the well. Gigi says, "He told me that you were going to do this, that you'd do anything to be with him." Gigi reveals how deeply Lucky's rule depends on preemptive manipulation rather than genuine leadership. By warning Gigi in advance that Elsie would object or push back, Lucky plants doubt before any conflict even occurs, shaping Gigi's perception of it. So when Elsie finally speaks to Gigi, it looks less like a moral stand and more like a predictable act of disloyalty, just what Lucky wants. It also keeps Gigi from aligning with Elsie, preventing the two strongest moral voices in Pet City, in my opinion, from becoming a united front against him. At the same time, Lucky positions himself as the one who understands everyone, at least in Gigi's eyes. I'll give him that. He is able to anticipate resistance and tries to poison relationships before they can become a problem. It's an interesting tactic for sure, but I don't think it's going to work for very long. Elsie disagrees though. That isn't Gigi. He's doing the same thing with Chloe that he did with you and me. He isn't your protector. He's not your mate. He doesn't care about you. He doesn't care about anyone. Lucky only cares about Lucky. You can say that again.
Lucky only cares about Lucky.
And Gigi quietly reveals what she already knows. You think I don't know that? You can tell she is absolutely hopeless here. But Elsie pleads with her again. "Gigi, we can leave." However, Gigi is trapped by the one thing Lucky knows she won't risk. "I can't go anywhere. He promised to protect the kittens here." Gigi is devoted to her kittens, and Lucky is using them in every way he can to keep her in line. Then Elsie reminds her, "We can protect them out there, just like we've always done." Remember way back in the early issues of the series, these two were a team and able to protect the kittens, but little by little their relationship splintered after multiple times of Elsie putting Gigi's kittens at risk through the horrible decisions she's made. It's no wonder that Gigi felt like she needed to find another protector. Like Lucky, she feels like she can't trust anyone else. She feels like Lucky is the only one who can provide a safe haven for her and her kittens, even after he has physically hurt both her and Milo. And it reveals just how effectively Lucky has twisted the emotional landscape in Pet City. This is the heartbreaking decision of a mother who feels cornered. Lucky has created an environment where he positions himself as both the threat and the solution. By harming Gigi and Milo, he proves he has the power to do worse. By then offering protection, he casts himself as the only force capable of stopping harm he himself would inflict or allow. In fact, Gigi isn't choosing Lucky because she trusts him. She's choosing him because she believes she has no other safe alternative. The moment illustrates just how much Lucky has distorted the rules of survival in this comic series. He's trained those around him to cling to whatever scraps of safety he grants, even when those scraps come from the same paw that strikes them. It also underscores Gigi's desperation and the immense pressure she feels as a mother. Instead of risking open defiance, she accepts his help because her kittens matter more to her than her dignity, her anger, or even her own safety. And I completely understand that as a parent. And this marks a tragic emotional shift for this series. Lucky has reshaped our original group of cats into one where even the strongest and kindest characters, like Gigi, are forced to bend to his control. It's a quiet but devastating illustration of how abuse warps choices, turning survival into its own type of imprisonment. Okay, now let's get to the final page. Then Gigi looks concerningly at Elsie, and then down at the floor. "No, Elsie, it's not that simple. It's..." She hesitates, and then reveals another heartbreaking truth. "I'm pregnant." End of chapter 18. Well, thanks Tony Fleecs for throwing another gut-wrenching revelation our way. Gigi being pregnant places her in an extremely vulnerable position, and it's likely to shape the emotional and political stakes of the story moving forward. But remember, her first litter was born in a moment of absolute crisis, when she and Elsie were fighting to survive the rabid bats and fleeing CDC agents. That situation was traumatic, but was also free from everything they're dealing with right now. There were no power structures, no lady or no Mother Helena, no manipulator claiming ownership over her or her kittens. That experience stands in sharp contrast to her current reality with Lucky. And now Gigi is carrying kittens in a world where Lucky controls everything: food distribution, safety, social rules, and even the emotional narratives he imposes on others. Her pregnancy ties her much more tightly to him, whether she wants that or not. It gives Lucky a leverage point he didn't have before, allowing him to present himself as her protector, even though he has both hit her and Milo and routinely weaponizes fear to maintain power, because now he can lay claim to her kittens as well. With his growing egotism and tyrannical tendencies, it's very likely he will view these kittens as extensions of himself, proof of his dominance and legitimacy as a leader. For Gigi, the consequences could be severe. She may find it harder to leave him, harder to oppose him, and harder to align fully with Elsie, or anyone else who sees Lucky for what he truly is. Loyalty becomes complicated when children are involved, especially in a regime built on manipulation. Gigi may also fear that resisting Lucky could endanger her unborn litter, giving him even more psychological control over her. And think about the rivalry that may occur between Gigi's first litter and this one. What about Lucky forcing Gigi to give up this litter to sustain the other cats of Pet City? There is no telling what might happen at this point. Gigi's pregnancy by Lucky doesn't just complicate her future, it potentially traps her in a new cycle of coercion, making her both emotionally and physically tethered to the very figure who endangers everyone in this community. And that wraps up my discussion of Feral issue number 18. And it's another masterful, gut-wrenching installment in Tony Fleecs' increasingly intense saga. The use of dramatic irony here is razor sharp, letting us see the manipulation, the cruelty, and the fractures long before the characters do. Lucky's tightening grip over the group, the CDC closing in, and Gigi's heartbreaking revelation escalate the tension to new heights. As always, Trish Forstner, Tone Rodriguez, and Brad Simpson deliver exceptional visual storytelling, expressive, brutal, and emotionally immersive. With everything spiraling and stakes rising on all sides, issue number 19 is poised to be explosive, and I can't wait for it to get here on December 31st. As we move toward the final stretch of this story arc, looking at the cover of issue number 20, major changes are coming. The stakes have never been higher, and the consequences of every choice, every lie, every betrayal, every uneasy alliance might finally be catching up with everyone at Pet City. Of course, let me know in the comments below what you guys think. Hype this video and check Comic Drops out on Spotify. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.